Welcome back to the Rebuilt Plus podcast. My name is Jake Suva. I'm a sports physical therapist and the owner of Suva PT and Performance. As always, it is our goal with this podcast to spread awareness and highlight the brands, the people in the community that we work with the most to get the best results for our patients. Today, our guest is somebody that if you go to Umbra Strength, you're probably pretty familiar with. It is Dr. Brendan Papin, doctor of physical therapy and also powerlifting coach, the owner of Momentum Powerlifting. If you've been on Instagram, seen the results of his team, it's pretty undeniable that he knows what he's talking about. So he's going to be here today. We're going to be talking all things lifting, performance, rehab, getting two PTs together. It's always a good conversation. Hopefully we don't nerd out too much for you. So Brandon, thanks for joining me today. Tell us a little bit about your background, man. What got you to where you are now?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jake. And this has kind of been a long-awaited thing. We've been talking about doing this for a while, so I'm glad to be here and I'm ready to have some good conversations about PT, strength training, and me and Jake can nerd out about this stuff all day long. Um, but yeah, a little bit about myself. So I went to Western Michigan University. I graduated in 2021 with my doctorate in physical therapy. Um, Throughout my just history, I've always been big on strength training. I have a wrestling background. I used to wrestle in high school, and I met a strength coach, and it was my aunt. She got me involved in Olympic weightlifting. So right away, I kind of fell in love with barbell sports. Like, it really got me into the game. And kind of after wrestling ended, it's like, okay, where do I go with stuff? Like, I got to have that little inside fulfillment. And it kind of turned into bodybuilding for a little bit, and then later on transitioned to powerlifting. And throughout PT school, that's when I started my brand, Momentum Powerlifting. And at the time, online coaching wasn't really a big thing, and kind of just started small. And then COVID happened and things just really took off with online coaching. But yeah, I will say, I think it's really cool because me and Jake have fairly similar backgrounds and goals. Like, we really obviously rehab and just incorporating that in between, trying to bridge that gap between strength training and rehab. Because I feel like in the rehab world, there's a kind of a fairly big disconnect. And again, the physical therapy field, it's very wide based. Like, there's so many different niches and fields. So it's really cool that me and Jake are kind of specialized in, the athletic population.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I knew early on, in PT school for myself that I wanted to, work with more athletes and more with that population. Did you kind of know early on that you were going to go down this route or when it comes to the clinical side, you don't work in the clinic at all anymore, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that history of were you in the clinic for a while after PT school and then you eventually just jumped all in on the coaching or how'd that whole process go from getting the doctorate to really not, being in the clinic anymore?
Yeah. So it started out all throughout, my earlier years. I was always big in sports. And basically what happened, I had a ton of traumatic injuries and I was always in physical therapy. I'm like, you know what? I'm in physical therapy enough. It seems like a pretty cool setting. Let's kind of go into this field. So starting off, I was kind of a little more headed towards working in the clinic. That was kind of the goal. And then just kind of ran with the online coaching. It kind of came out of nowhere and just kind of flourished from there. But yeah, basically background wise, I worked in inpatient for a little bit. I never was in an outpatient ortho clinic at all. I just kind of ran with my online coaching business, and I do rehab consults online. And I just kind of figured out a way to, and a lot of times my perspective on rehab, I'm very exercise based. And when you're working with highly motivated individuals, it makes it fairly easy to get them moving. And a lot of times you get a pretty big bang out of the buck for just exercise prescription and getting people to make those long-term adaptations for
Yeah,
rehab. So
I agree. I feel like the school that I went to with Oakland, we were very much manual therapy based and whatnot. And I think it's great, has its time and place. But once you really get out and practice and you realize manual therapy can only take people so far. It's the exercises and the prescription that we give them that really actually gets them the results. So I mean, if I had to choose, not that we have to, but if you had to choose one or the other, all manual, all exercise, I'm going all exercise pretty much, every time. So
definitely. And yeah, I feel like a lot of, there's some misconceptions when it comes to modalities and stuff like that. You have some people that completely hate on it. It certainly has its place too. Like if I can get a patient feeling a little bit better just through the modalities, they're probably going to move more. They're going to start loading more. And again, it's just going to help promote the whole process of adaptation, feeling better throughout their movement patterns, getting them to move more freely through those ranges of motion that you need to. So again, man, I think just being open-minded to all different, aspects. Like obviously we kind of bias towards exercise prescription, but again, I think you definitely do a good job with it too. Just being open-minded towards everything. And sometimes on paper, you'll find something that, it's like, does this really work? And you try it and it's like the patient feels phenomenal off it. And it's like, I'm
Yeah.
going to keep doing it. And regardless if it, on paper, if it's like, yeah, this isn't really doing anything necessarily. If it's like, if my patient's feeling better, they're able to move more, they're going to reap the benefits of those long-term adaptations from loading.
Yeah. It's definitely a big thing, especially too with people being so bogged down sometimes by evidence. Do we have the evidence for it? And sometimes, the way that the real world works with people, I think kind of goes sometimes, a little differently than what all the research might suggest or what a paper says. Like you just said, there's some things like even foam rolling, let's say, there might not be a ton of evidence behind it, but some people just love it. They swear by it and it feels good. So if it's placebo effect and they feel good, then we're not doing any harm, right? We're not going to hurt anything by doing it. So
Right.
let it rip.
Yeah, and that's what I love, that open-minded, healthy dose of like skepticism, but always being open-minded. That's what I always preach.
What are a couple things that you maybe were a little more closed-minded about before that you opened your mind to and were actually like, wow, this is really good. I'm going to keep using this uh, after the fact?
Yeah, so kind of a nice little story here. I started off my PT journey. I worked as a tech for a couple of years. I met this one PT at the clinic, and he was really big in biopsychosocial. And it was kind of one of those things like in the Matrix, you got the red pill, the blue pill. And it's like he kind of was like, hey, here's the red pill, take it, understand the biopsychosocial approach. And I feel like for a while there, like, and a lot of it through PT school, I was kind of a little closed minded towards some of the stuff because I'm like, I already kind of found my groove with the BPS model. And it's, and to kind of elaborate on the BPS model, the biopsychosocial model, a lot of it's based off neurological, the psychological approach between injury, and it's like you can fall into that rabbit hole of like, it's all in your head based off that in a sense. So just again, being mindful of that, but incorporating different models too. Like biomechanics are still certainly very important. And I think I kind of closed myself off towards that initially out of PT school. I was just, it's all BPS, I was so BPS heavy. And I definitely think it is very important, but you need to be open minded towards both sides. Like biomechanics definitely play their role. And kind of same thing with like some of the modalities and stuff. I was kind of like, what does it really do? But again, if it gets the patient to feel better, they're going to move more. It's going to be just a better process all around. You got to get the patients feeling good. And I'm sure you can relate to this too, Jake. Like even in the clinic, if you don't get the patient feeling good, they're probably not going to come back. It's like, it's
Yeah.
hard to get that buy-in right away. And it just helps with buy-in and getting them to trust the process. Hey, I am feeling a little bit better. I'm trending up. I'm going to keep going into this guy.
Oh, 100%. I mean, especially like with us being a little more in the cash pay side, like you got to make changes pretty quick for people because it's not necessarily cheap by any means. We don't hide that,
Right.
but if session one and the evaluation, you can come on in and not only just evaluate, hey, this is what's going on, but then get into treatment and then make an intra session change. Like that's huge. Those are the ones that we get the best buy-in from that, hey, they can leave and be like, wow, I haven't felt this good. Like we had a guy last week who was like, dude, I haven't felt this good in like 5, 6 years. And it's like they're gonna be more willing to then buy into that plan of care. So if we just do an evaluation, we just tell them, in the beginning, hey, this is what's going on, but like leave them with nothing. It's really hard, yeah, to get that buy-in. You gotta get quick wins to really get that patient all in. Cause then when they get all in, that's right. That's when we get our real results because we know that nothing is just, hey, you come in one time, you're better, I gave you one exercise, here you go, oh, it's all sunshine and rainbows. It takes what, 6, 12 weeks, sometimes 6 months, like, and really getting that patient to be on board for that whole ride. Yeah, it's tough.
For sure. And despite what people see on social media nowadays, you'll see these little silver bullet fixes. Oh, this exercise, I had this patient do it one time and they already feel 100% better and they're able to squat again. It's like, it's great for a marketing sense, I guess. But again, man, I just don't think it's helpful to the patients to kind of market that way either. I don't know. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it from a marketing standpoint. Like, it's a business. You got to try to get those little quick hits to get people to come to you. But again, man, I like the honest kind of approach. Like, hey, it's a process. And a lot of times it's not going to be a perfectly linear process of just getting back to full health. There's going to be some ups and downs. But as clinicians too, like, we're going to be there the entire way with you. Like, we're going to help you through the lows, and on the highs, we're going to ride the highs.
Yeah. I almost like to use the analogy. It's almost like with the stock market, like, it might be up a little bit, it might be down, but then when you like zoom out, you see that your trend is up, but you might, within that trend, you're having higher lows, you're having higher highs. Like that's the hope, but we're definitely going to have some bounce back. So I'm a big stock investor guy, so I love using that analogy. And usually people actually like it too. They kind of understand that. It really helps put into perspective. Oh, okay, yeah, just be zoom, take a step back, look at the big picture, and then realize, are we generally making good changes, even if we got one bad day?
And I really like that analogy. Honestly, Jake, I might have to steal that for myself. I haven't thought
Yeah.
about it from like a stock market sense, but I like that analogy. And it's awesome.
Yeah, gotta have
Yeah,
some higher lows.
it's like the long-term progress, right? We might have some ups and downs as long as we're slowly trending up over time. On average, that's going to be everything.
Yeah, zooming out, big picture is hard. I mean, it's even hard for me sometimes, and I'm sure you even just like from a business ownership standpoint, like I think us as humans, we can get very locked in on what we're at present right now, or even just the last couple days. So, for to be able to kind of look back, hey, what's the last 3 months? What's 6 months, a year look like for you? Are you improving, getting better? I think they can take a huge edge off of people if they're, concerned and then realize where they're actually at. But it's hard to do. It's really hard to do. Easier said than done.
Definitely. So, Jake, in regards to like when you starting your business and stuff, what was kind of your journey?
Uh, so I worked a couple jobs prior to opening my business, but I knew that I kind of wanted to be able to see people one on one. I wanted to be able to give that more like sports rehab approach, and I just couldn't find that at a lot of places that I was at. So I said, okay, I got to build this thing. And then when I did that, I worked like a part-time job, contingent and outpatient still, a couple days a week, and kind of started a lot of hours at that job, little bit at Suva PT and Performance. I opened up inside of one gym. Things weren't going super hot. So I said, hey, we gotta find something else. We gotta do something different. So I switched. I went to a different gym, opened that up. And I wasn't there very long. I was only there like 5 or 6 months and I knew it wasn't going well. So uh, I decided to change one more time, and that's when I talked to Dom to come back to Umbra. And because I had originally talked to Dom before I went to the second gym, and it just didn't seem like the best fit at the moment. But then when I came back, saw what Umbra was becoming and see the growth that it had, I knew that, hey, if I want to grow, I got to be alongside a place that was also growing. So then I came back here. I was still working that part-time job. I kept building up for the next 6 months or so, and then was able to finally jump off all into the business and started to grow it to where we are now. But it's absolutely been a journey and far from the mountaintop for sure. But it's been just so cool, I think, to see how many people that you can make a positive impact. And I think I'm sure you can attest to this. Like our career is so cool that every day you get to like go to work, help people, walk around, be active. Like, I mean, man, it's hard to beat that.
No doubt, dude. And first off, shout out Umbra Strength. Dom has built a freaking empire. Like, that place is phenomenal. And it's cool to see all
Absolutely.
of the like, and even in my time there, I've been there about a year and a half now, I think. Just seeing your business take off, like, dude, there's been times I've seen you, you have multiple PTs under you now too. Um, but it's just been really cool to see just the whole community you've built. And like you said too, like, our jobs are super fulfilling. When we see somebody get better when they're kind of like hopeless, like, it means everything. Like, it's a fulfilling kind of aspect that it's hard to describe. And
Yeah.
a lot of other jobs, like, you don't have that type of fulfillment. We're
No.
lucky to be where we're at.
And you kinda make friends out of it too, you know? It's like it's
Yeah,
like
like
these patients graduate, they become lifelong friends. I know they're said in PT school, you're not supposed to be friends with your patient, but that's garbage. If you're a good PT, you're gonna be friends with your patients. I'm sorry, there's no I will die on that hill every
yeah,
day.
and building that PT to client relationship, like outcome wise too. Like it just like data shows that if you build that good relationship, it helps the outcome too. Like
Yeah,
it's
100%, the trust has gotta be there, and if you don't like somebody, you don't trust them, especially when you gotta see them for an hour at a time at sessions, like, you're not gonna wanna spend that time with them if you don't like them. So
right. So, but yeah, man, it's been really cool to see you just your whole journey and Suva's thriving, man. Like every time I see you up there, you got a ton of patience and word of mouth goes a long ways. You get good results. You got more clients coming in time and time again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and likewise with you with the powerlifting. Um, what's kind of the big things that you would say, are important for people if they're, like, not big into strength training or, like, the functional training, maybe they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, like, what would you recommend to them as a place to maybe start or just the importance of it? I think those are 2 really big concepts here.
Yeah. And I think just really starting off with those clients with patient education, just really teaching them how important movement really is as you age, especially. And obviously I've worked, in inpatient. Jake, you've probably done, clinical rotations in inpatient, like some of
I
those
hated
patients,
it. I almost died.
they're low and rugged. But again, I will say, it's very fulfilling when you get them back. And for those patients too, like the older population that they have a hard time standing up off a toilet, sitting down to a toilet, walking around, picking up a bag of groceries, like a lot of the essential movements that we do in the gym in general just helps you stay strong as you age too. And I'm not saying you need to be, squatting 500 plus pounds when you're 60 years old. But there's something to be said about just being able to still squat to some degree, being able to hinge over and pick up a bag of groceries. So I think just really educating those patients and not and kind of understanding where the patient's at motivation wise too, what their lifestyle's like, really trying to find that in between for them too. Um, and not everybody's super motivated. So again, really trying to find out what makes that patient tick. A lot of education based and, just really harping on them the importance of high frequency movement, moving every day. And I think one of the hardest things as PT when you're working with those clients, you see them, 2 times a week. And it's like to really get those good adaptations and those results we want, like you got to do stuff at home too. Like you have to do your home exercises. As boring as some of them seem, they go a long ways. If you have that frequency day to day, you're going to get a lot better results and just improvements in life.
Yeah. It's probably I feel like it's a lot harder nowadays too in, like, the social media quick fixes, quick results, like we were just talking about a minute ago, like, it's hard for people to kinda understand that, hey, like, maybe you haven't been active for 10, 15 years, like, it's not just gonna happen quickly where you're strong or you're looking good. Like, you're gonna have to work at it, no doubt.
And even with those clients that aren't super active, just really starting them off slow. And I think one tool to really incorporate is just rate of perceived exertion. Really limiting the dosage of the volume you're giving them through exercises, keeping it light, letting them really adapt to those movement patterns first with light movements, building the skill of the movements. And then a lot of times the load and the strength comes over time. Like as you build that neurological, those neurological adaptations, the skill with the movement patterns, like it really starts to progress from there.
What would you say is, like, something about your powerlifting training and your coaching that separates you from some of the other coaches out there
Yeah.
in your
So
programming approach?
the one thing I'll say, like when it comes to my power lifters, my ultimate goal is to find that sweet spot of how can I keep a client healthy long term? Obviously, you're working with really heavy weights. How can I find that sweet spot dosage where we can keep climbing the ladder, leveling up, but we keep them healthy long term? One of my missions, I don't want to have a client that power lifts for 2 to 3 years and, I drive them into the dirt and at that point their bodies beat to crap and it's like they can't even do it anymore. They're beat. Like I want to create that healthy lifestyle, really educate how to train appropriately, load management, reps in reserve, using those tools to really just help keep the client healthy. And it's cool. Training's come such a long ways. You can make progress with not really maximal dosages of intensity. So really playing with those small little details of frequency, intensity, volume. How can I keep this client to level up and not allow them to get injured? And again, injuries are part of the game, but that's where our expertise comes in too. Like you
Yeah.
get injured, we're going to know exactly where to go right away versus, I see some other coaches, they're not as well versed in the rehab setting and just with rehab all around. And sometimes you'll see them get injured. And it's like they're kind of spinning their wheels for months on end trying to get healthy again versus, somebody gets injured. I know exactly where to go right away.
Yeah. I mean, it's such an important tool to have in your toolbox. Like it really can't be overstated or understated. Yeah, that's the right. Ugh, can't talk. But that's something that even as you're talking, I'm thinking like, just the way that you approach it, your thoughts of like if you're only into lifting and you're only about the powerlifting piece, like when somebody does get hurt, you might not be thinking, okay, like even at like a joint level or like even a little deeper into the biology of what kind of inflammatory processes are going on. Like if you can't manage that, in your case, you're going to have a big edge over the powerlifting coach that doesn't think that way for sure.
Definitely. And I
So
will say
it's
with the
huge.
population I work with too, man, it's cool because they're highly motivated individuals. Anytime they're injured, I give them a rehab program. I know they're doing all their stuff every day. Like they want to get back, they want to get back to performing. So it makes it easy in that sense. And a lot of times with powerlifters, they have these high skill levels within these movement patterns. So we can scale back, load on the bar, and we can almost use it as a form of rehab in itself. You're moving under a load, it's going to promote tissue adaptation over time. Even if we need to scale way back, find that entry point of like low pain levels, they have such a high just loading capacity in those ranges of motion already. It makes it a lot easier. And you can
Yeah.
use those movement patterns as a form of rehab in itself. Polish up on technique and keep it light. And again, even with low loads, you're still promoting tissue adaptation. So,
Yeah.
and then you can gradually increase load over time as you start feeling better, start loading more incrementally. And I think that's one of the coolest parts. And I think in regards to like your standard PT setting where, they're not super active individuals, they do a couple months of physical therapy. And then what do they do after? They kind of return back to their sedentary lifestyle if that's kind of how they live life. And you kind of lose those adaptations versus you have that person that has that background. They love being active. You can really reap the benefits long term. Like Jake kind of touched upon earlier, like over the course of 6 months, over the course of a year, over the course of 3 to 5 years, it's like you can keep leveling up. And, the more you're able to load, the more resilient you're going to become over time.
Yeah, and I feel like, for us, with our history of seeing people in the acute care, inpatient, or even just like in the outpatient settings, but the older patients, seeing what happens when you don't strength train and don't keep yourself strong, I think makes it easy for us to be like, oh shoot, like I have to stay strong because I don't want to become that. But if you don't see that and you're just, the patient or a person who's average sedentary person, you don't understand what strength training does. So you don't understand how important it is to keep you on your feet, like you were talking about, or like keep you from having pain when you're in your 60s and 70s. Like there's a lot to it that without that inside look that we can have, I think it's really hard for other people to maybe see. So it'd be good if more people could see, hey, this is what a person looks like that does strength train. And again, not saying that everybody has to squat 500 pounds, but to stay relatively strong, keep a good muscle mass on you versus what happens when you just stay on the couch. And I know many people very close to me that are in their older years, the ones who stayed active, stayed strong, they're doing a lot better in their 80s than the ones who paid no attention to their health and fitness for the last 40 years.
Definitely. And I'll say, like, building strength in your 20s, 30s, 40s, it's a lot easier than starting out all of a sudden in your 50s, 60s. Like, you have a little more mileage, you're older, just, your recovery's probably not as good as it used to be. But if you can really build that baseline, man, you can retain a lot of it as you age. And that's
Yeah.
the cool thing. Like, you don't need to be some crazy elite power lifter as you get older. But again, like all those essential movements, some of the fundamental movements as you age, being able to hinge, being able to sit down, stand up, like it goes a long ways. And if you really build that baseline and that capacity early on in life and you keep moving to some degree, you retain a lot of it.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of cool. Actually, my parents, they're about, I think they're 63, 64. Man, they still go to the gym like three times a week. Like they're still getting after it. They're doing leg presses, rows, like, and you can tell just function wise, some of their other friends, they're starting to, functionally fall off a little bit. They're having, pain issues, functional issues. And it's like, man, you guys are killing the game. It just, an hour, 2 to 3 hours a week, like it goes a long ways. If you're loading, you're consistent, you're still moving, like it definitely carries over to your lifestyle and your ability to do stuff in life.
Yeah. And not even to mention like the mental health benefits that you get from it, right? I don't know about you, but after a good workout, I mean, I might be smoked physically, but I feel
Your
so
endorphins are flowing.
clear, so clear mentally, man. Like I just can't say it enough for anybody who's like struggling like mental health wise. Like, man, you really got to try to move.
Yeah,
You
dude,
got to try.
especially here in Michigan in the winters, man, it's like it gets cold, it gets dark. Man, I look forward to working out every day. Just keeps me mentally going.
Yeah, it's
And
tough when you have 10 months of seasonal depression in this state, you know?
no kidding, man.
And then you have
So,
the Lions also adding depression on top of it. Like
yeah, man.
January, February can be very depressing months here in Michigan.
Yeah, it was a rough winter this year, that's for sure. Rough
Yeah.
place to work from. But yeah,
Yeah.
man, and I feel like in my lifting career too, it's like, my training response now, it's pretty diminished. I've been training for a long time. It's like progress doesn't come super fast. I enjoy the grind. Love being in there. And at this point in my lifting career, I feel like lifting does more for me mentally than physically. And I mean, I'm still leveling up slowly. We're chipping away, but just mentally, like Jake was saying, like just how you feel after a good workout, like it just keeps you mentally going, man.
What is your total at right now for powerlifting? I saw you putting up some nice squat numbers yesterday for a triple.
Yep. So I think my best lifts in competition, 540 squat. Bench press, my best is 342, and then my best deadlift in competition is 666.
Dang. Oh, you couldn't have gotten any other number for
Dude, I
dead. You
know.
had to get 666.
It's like bad luck, man. I haven't been able to beat
Yeah.
it since. It's been a few years now. So
Dude, yeah, you should have just taken one pound off, man.
yeah,
1 pound
right.
off that bar.
Those
Or 1 pound up.
kilo, those kilo conversions, man.
Yeah. Yeah, we gotta work on getting that up so you can uncurse yourself, but no, that's great, man. I feel like I need you to coach me up. I've been trying to slowly get back into heavy lifting. It's just 2 kids and a business and a lot of excuses have worn me down, but I just keep seeing the results that you're getting with people, and I'm like, man, I just keep getting close. I'm like, I might have to hop on board with Pat here, take the red pill,
Hey,
and make
man,
it
one of these
happen.
days. And I will say, I think, powerlifting and just movement, analyzing movement patterns, how well people adapt, it's kind of changed my perspective of like, totally categorizing a movement as like a bad movement pattern. It's like we're so adaptable. If we move through a repeated range of motion time and time again, we adapt through those ranges of motion. We become more resilient. And it's kind
Yeah,
of funny, man. Like even all through PT school, and even as you're kind of brought up as a kid, they always say, when you pick something off the ground, you have to be, you know, extended back and you can't round your back over. And it's funny because in powerlifting, a lot of the times on deadlift, I teach that back position to be more neutral based, having a rounded back, and it gives you that better leverage to lift the movement, to deadlift.
Mm,
And what I see is, because we load through this repeated movement pattern time and time again, we're going to be stronger in that neutral position. Maybe even if they have a little bit of back flexion, we're always taught like back flexion is going to hurt you. It's so bad for you. But it's like I see these elite powerlifters moving these absurd weights with that back flexion, but because they move through that range of motion time and time again, they're more resilient. They're stronger in that range of motion. So
yeah.
it's been kind of a cool experience for me to really understand, like, you know, there's really no bad faulty movement pattern. If you hear it about like Jefferson curls too, where you're way rounded over. It's bad for your back. It's going to herniate your discs. But it's like if you start light and you really build that loading up over time, you're going to be more resilient in that movement. Like it's not going to inherently just pop your disc out of place like your back's not going to explode like it's a piece of glass. You become more
Yeah.
resilient. You get stronger in that range of motion.
Yeah, I
So,
think
and
that's definitely a good point. The intensity and the programming of the movement is truly the big difference. You just see so many people that aren't coached by anybody, just going in the gym and just ego lifting, right? And then they blame the movement. Exactly what you're saying. I see it
yeah,
so often. And you gotta retrain people's minds that a
right.
deadlift is just a movement pattern. It's nothing crazy. Like it's not this like magical thing. It's just literally a movement. Squat. It's a movement pattern. There's a million ways to do it. There's a bunch of things that we can change based on your form, based on like your anatomy, but it's just a movement pattern. So
Yeah.
we do it every day.
Absolutely. And the cool thing with that too, with the powerlifting experience, it's really taught me like we don't need to go to max dosage all the time. We don't need to max out. And pretty much for my lifters, like we don't really max out unless it's on the platform.
Mm.
We're always saving reps in reserve. And that way it keeps us healthy. We're ingraining those really efficient movement patterns without breakdown. We stay healthy in those ranges of motion. And then when it's time for the platform, when they're ready to compete, we taper up, we let it rip on the platform. And that way, it's not going to beat you up as much. And, I see a lot of people that go to the gym and they're afraid of deadlifts because they're like, oh, deadlifts are going to hurt my back. And it's like, no, it's probably the dosage, the programming that you're doing. And, you need to pick and choose those exercises that you're pushing to true failure or close to failure. It's all about proximity to failure.
Yeah, man.
Something like a leg press or some of the machine work, you can push that a little bit harder, closer to failure, and you're going to have a lower risk of injury, right? Versus a heavy deadlift, a heavy comp squat. You're moving really heavy weights. You have a lot of degrees of freedom. It's a very skill dependent lift. So just really ingraining those efficient movement patterns goes a long ways. And, training submaximal, like you can do it forever, in my opinion. Like you can keep leveling up and find that happy dosage of like, okay, here's this range we're staying in. We're going to keep leveling up. It's still an effective dosage to stimulate that adaptation and, you know, get you stronger.
I feel like if there's anything that's a good takeaway from this podcast is exactly that. Like that's the truest golden nugget that we can give people is exactly what you just said. Because I know that especially from my back injury, I had one in undergrad before I was a PT, anything like that. But I was trying to go to a powerlifting meet and I was doing some programming, like good programs, like 531 Juggernaut program. But the way that I was just abusing the crap out of the program because I didn't understand reps in reserve, RPE. I was going failure or it didn't count for anything. So I was ripping deads off to failure, ripping squats. And then, eventually it hurt my back. And then I blamed the deadlift and was scared of deadlifting for a long time. It took me at least probably 4 years to really get back to it again. But, maturing is realizing, hey, it wasn't the movement. It was that I was being reckless. I was hitting, max effort, max reps deadlifts when I shouldn't have been doing that instead of just, up more appropriate programming, which those programs truly don't call for that anyways. But me thinking that, I was, so intelligent at the time, had to change it up in my own way and send those things to failure. But there's a reason they're written the way they are. And when done well, I'm a big fan of those programs because they do rely so much on submaximal movements and moving them, with good form. So
Yeah. And it's cool, man. Like with that approach, when you're going really heavy all the time, you're going to get strong fast. You can kind of pull back from time to time, but it's only a matter of time till you do get injured. And it's kind of a good point too that you brought up. Like, I injured my back in the day. It was a long time ago. Didn't really understand, some of the rehab principles and stuff. It's your classic fear avoidance. All of a sudden, if you get injured doing something, it's kind of a unconscious response that you're going to have fear avoidance towards that specific movement pattern. So a lot of times now, like if I have a client that gets injured deadlifting, we're going to do some different light rehab work to kind of help desensitize. And by the time they're scheduled to deadlift again next session, we're probably deadlifting again already. And it's not going to be heavy. And even if, I have a 600-pound deadlifter and they get hurt and all they can handle at like a 2 out of 10 pain level is 135, I'm getting them back to deadlifts as soon as possible. Like they have a high skill level in those movement patterns. We find that entry point, and it just kind of helps with that fear avoidance aspect too. Helps desensitize. You start habituating under that load through that range of motion again, and you start adapting.
Yeah. What are your thoughts with like wearing belts or knee sleeves and wrist wraps and what else we got? Elbow sleeves, all the type of gear that people would be using, not drugs gear, actual apparel gear. But
Yeah.
what are your
So
thoughts? Let's start with the belt. Most importantly, probably belt with training.
a belt. Yep. So they're tools at the end of the day. And a lot of them, they're gonna allow you to lift a little bit heavier. Um, I will say when it comes to a belt, creating that intra-abdominal pressure, being able to brace out into that wall of the belt, a lot of times they actually find better core engagement from doing that too. So you're gonna be able to handle heavier loads, and I don't think it necessarily makes you weak, especially if you're doing different exercises that are beltless, you're doing different machines, hinging without a belt from time to time, you're going to become more resilient. And the way I like to look at it is I like to cast a big net through different ranges of motion, different movement patterns, different, beltless deadlifts or belted deadlifts, just really creating a strong foundation all around. But I don't think that using a belt's going to make you necessarily weak. And I think that's where some people go wrong. They're like, oh, it's going to make my core weak. And it's funny enough, they find that you get better core engagement by using that belt. So,
Yeah.
and when it comes to powerlifting, when I'm using a belt on deadlifts, squats, it's going to change my leverages a little bit. It's a different skill knowing how to brace into that belt versus not using a belt at all. So I think where some people go wrong, they're like, oh, this is lighter weight. I'm just going to go beltless. I'm training for this powerlifting meet. But again, it's a skill. And the more familiar you get with that skill pattern, the better you're going to get over time. And
So
that's
will
just
you
your classic law of specificity.
So do you use the belt usually in your lighter sets, or do you save them for a top 1, 2 heavy sets?
Yeah.
What do you
So
like?
typically warm up wise, I go beltless. So if I'm working up to a 600-pound deadlift, maybe my first 2 or 3 acclimation sets, 155, 265, 375, I'm not going to use a belt. Like I don't need to use it yet. But then as I'm getting closer to those higher ranges, that top set, maybe my next 2 warm ups before my top set, I'm putting the belt on just to really find that, that leverage, that skill pattern of being able to brace into the belt. So it's kind of preference too. But I will
Yeah.
say, like, if you're planning on competing for powerlifting, use a belt. If you're just a general population lifter, by all means, you can go beltless, you can go wrapless. Like you don't need to use all these things. Your joints and everything are going to adapt to those repeatable movement patterns. So you don't necessarily need it. And I don't think it doesn't really protect against injury either. I think proper programming, load progression over time, that's going to be your best bang for the buck. That's what's going to keep you healthy long term.
Yeah. That's another nugget for people. They think, oh, get the belt makes you like friggin' Iron Man, that you can do whatever you want. And my back's good because I got the belt. It's like, no, man, that's just a tool. But yeah, the programming is where it's at. But all right, man, we're a little low on time. I know you got some things to do. We got some things to do as well. And I've learned the best way to end a podcast is by leaving people wanting more. And I think that we're kind of at that point. So we'll save the rest of our conversation for another time. If people want to work with you, what is the best way for them to reach Momentum Powerlifting?
Yeah. So the best way to reach me is right over Instagram, and Instagram's I have a big Momentum page. I have my own personal Papin Momentum Instagram page. Feel free to reach out. Even if you just have a question about training or, in general, or if you want to work with me, reach right out over Instagram. I have a link tree in my bio too. I also have a website. I think it might actually be down right now. I'm working on remodeling a few things, but feel free to reach out over Instagram if you have any questions or genuinely just want to work with me, get stronger at powerlifting, learn more about proper training. How do I stay healthy long-term? My ultimate mission is to help people out. As you know, Jake, you could probably relate. So I'm always open to helping people out, and you have a question or you just want help on something, always happy to be there.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for joining on this podcast with me, Brendan. For those of you who need help with physical therapy, you can always contact us at Suva PT and Performance, suvaptp.com. Our phone number is 586-800-4364. You can always give us a call or text. And as we can both attest to, Umbra Strength is the best gym in the Shelby Township area. So come on over, train there, come experience it on a day pass or whatever. But I'm telling you, the community's great. You got people like Brendan there, like myself, if you like me. There's a lot of great people there. We love being there, and we hope that you can join us there. So
definitely. It is elite. And nonetheless, Jake, love what you're doing, man. And thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, of course, man. We'll absolutely do this again soon.
Definitely.
All right. Take care. See ya.
Yep.